Turn, O virgin daughter of Israel, to these your highways by which you went. Welcome to Reunion Roadmap, a place to discover the people and communities along the highway of restoration for Israel's house of Joseph. Reunion Roadmap is a B'nai Yosef North America production. Be our guest for the next hour as we meet the people of the emerging house of Joseph here in North America. Welcome to another production of Reunion Roadmap. I'm Sophania Pappas, Communications Director, and with me is Al McCarn, Executive Director. And it looks like we're going to have a very interesting program. We're going to hear the second part of Akpene Torku's interview. I'm sure folks are wondering what the second part is going to cover.
Yes, I'm very excited about this portion of Akpene's interview. This is where we get the nuts and bolts of how B'nai Yosef North America works. What we heard in our previous program was Akpene's story of how she came into a relationship with Jesus, with Yeshua, how she had questions about what the Bible said, and what the Bible said is not necessarily what she's learning growing up in church. And as she said, she was a precocious child. We learned a bit about her Christian ministry experience. Well, this is the part of the interview where we learn how she got involved with B'nai Yosef. And in fact, she has been part of Bina even before Bina existed. She was one of a handful of people who caught the vision back in 2015. And was in the planning from the beginning of putting together the conferences that eventually resulted in the inaugural summit in St. Petersburg, Florida in March of 2016, when B'nai Yosef North America came to life. So I think folks will enjoy hearing that. Now, Akpene is our new Community Development Director, and she's got quite a vision for how to do just that. Develop our community of the emerging house of Ephraim here in North America, as our show introduction says.
Yes, I think they'll really get clued in to exactly what B'nai Yosef North America is all about from this particular interview.
Yes, indeed. And, Giovanni, it seems to me appropriate to remind folks of just what are our vision and mission and our core values. Let me just share that again. This is the vision of B'nai Yosef North America, the regathering and reconciliation of the North American portion of the house of Yosef, Ephraim, Northern Israel. And then we have this mission to inspire and strengthen relationships, communities, and support networks by encouraging and communicating unity and brotherhood among a family that has been scattered and exiled for over 2,700 years. And these are right there on our website. You can find them at BnaiYosefNA.com. That's BnaiYosefNA.com. And what else you will find is our core values. These are taken from our Articles of Declaration, which also are up there on our website. And our core values are obedience, humility and integrity, harmony, reconciliation, graciousness and meekness, patience and honor, trustworthiness, mutual respect, and community. These things, folks, I hope that you would take a look at and see how we want to walk them out. Because our intent at Bina is not to take charge, but to help facilitate individuals, home fellowships, organizations, congregations come together in unity and harmony as this awakening happens to our identity as part of the nation of Israel.
Yes.
Sophania, as you and I had talked in our previous program, you are putting together a presentation on that very thing, on identity.
Identity, I think it's something that we really need to begin to look seriously at, is the whole idea of identity. And I think it's going to resonate with some people at the Congress. I pray it will, and I've been just praying about it. And actually, the Father, I believe, inspired me to put it together. And so I've been challenged by it myself, even.
Yes, it is a challenging thing. What identity will you walk in? Well,
Yes.
that is something that I hope you'll ponder as you hear Akpene's story. So, without further ado, let's go on down to Fort Mill, South Carolina.
I know people struggle with some of the gifts of the Spirit, and also in some of the worship where you have people who celebrate on Sundays and eat pork and say that the Old Testament is done away with or whatever. Sitting there in worship and feeling and knowing the Spirit of God is there, that confused me, but it made me realize that God is, I mean, whoever they call him, God, Yahweh, Elohim, he was there. And I think he's there, always there, trying to draw people to him. And who am I to say that he's not?
That's a big lesson that we all, I think, need to learn. What would you say to someone who is seeing these same contradictions, inconsistencies, perhaps, and would be inclined to walk away completely from anything Christian? What would you say to them?
I would say relationships are primary, and to ask questions and to go where the Father leads them. Because some people need to walk away in order to learn, but other people need to do their exploration with people around them so that they can lead other people in that exploration. There's not one formula. And you really have to be listening to the Father in order to figure out what he wants your testimony to be.
Now, your testimony, as you've shared with us, was a very profound, deep personal experience with Jesus when you were a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
Is the Yeshua you know today as real to you as the Jesus you met when you were 8 years old?
He's more so. He is, but he's revealed himself so much more because he has so many facets to him. I've only glimpsed a little bit when I was younger, and I've glimpsed so much more now, and I know that there's so much more to glimpse. So he never stops revealing himself.
Akpene, you've had this question, I'm sure, several times in your life. You have an unusual name.
Yes, I've had this question probably as many times as I've introduced myself, yes.
What does Akpene mean?
Akpene means thanks be to God in my parents' language. And I actually just recently with a friend went through the meaning of all of my name. My middle name is Manuela, the masculine form of Emmanuel, which is God with us. And in my parents' tribe, you also have a day name, and my day name is Afi, a girl born on Friday, which is the day of preparation. And still trying to find exactly what my last name, Torku, means. But from what we could find, it means in service or service to other people or hospitality to other people.
That's quite a collection of meaningful names. Very good names.
It is.
And those who know you can see many of those characteristics in your personality. So your parents chose well.
Yes. My dad or my mom told me, I didn't know this until several years ago. I mean, I'm thinking it was such a holy name. And she said that he picked that name because he was just glad that I wasn't born in the car. I'll take what I can.
Yeah, well, the Father can use whatever circumstances he turns to his glory. Akpene, you have just in the last couple of weeks stepped into this brand new position, Community Development Director. What is the Community Development Director? Or actually, maybe we should go back a little bit and ask, how did you get involved with B'nai Yosef North America in the first place?
The Father dropped me into it. I wasn't looking for a group. I was simply just hanging around on a Sukkot with some good friends. You, Al, happened to be one of them.
Yes, I was.
Red River, Oklahoma. It was a great Sukkot. It was my first Sukkot. And we were just talking about the Congress, I believe, in Israel, and about a need to get together the North American community, and then thinking about getting together our little pocket. And so we talked about having a kind of a small little conference in Texas, and then it's started growing and growing and growing, and all of a sudden we were Region 35, Texas, Colorado, Oklahoma. I'm sure I'm missing some states, but it was more than Texas, and that's a pretty big state in and of itself. And since part of what I do is event planning, I decided this is something worthwhile, and I wanted to help plan the event. And it was phenomenal. We had some speakers, one of which was David Altman, who was trying to get people together for kind of a regional or national conference. So he came and spoke, as well as some others. We had Eddie Chumney there, we had Mike Clayton there, we had Mark Webb there, and we started talking about the need to see this done nationally. And so we started talking about who do we talk to about seeing this done. And again, I found myself in the middle of this. I don't know how. I wasn't looking for it. It just, you know how sometimes you see a train wreck happening and you can't look away. It's not a train wreck, but it's something that it was happening and I had no control over it. So I was at the plenary committee, and what I do is the event planning, the note taking, a lot of administration and operations. And so when people were talking about getting people in position to help with the framework, somebody, I don't remember who it was, decided that I needed to be nominated, and everybody, immediately agreed. So I ended up being the executive secretary for the association. And I figured, okay, I can do this just until we get B'nai Yosef up and running and started. And then I got nominated to become the executive secretary of the actual entity. And that's how it happened. That's how I found myself in being in the framework of the beginning of gathering a family here in North America.
And that was 2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago. The plenary meeting was 2 years ago, 2 weeks ago.
Right. So that was, and as we're recording this, it's January 2018. So that was January of 2016.
Yes.
What's happened from your perspective in the last 2 years, ever since B'nai Yosef North America came into being?
A baby that needs lots of attention and lots of learning and lots of attention. I think I mentioned that. But there are growing pains, and there are, we have to learn how to work with each other, work as an association, work within the bounds of Torah, and just make that all meld together. And that's what's been happening for the last 2 years.
Well, this might be a good point to ask. How is Bina different from a denomination or a congregation or a business?
I think one of the elders said it very well. A lot of those gather around a person or an idea or a theory or something like that. This is gathering around the Father. And what matters is how you follow what the Father says. And I think that's the main difference. It's not about different belief systems. It's about who you dedicate your life to.
And where does the Hebrew identity fit in all of that?
With people coming into Torah and finding their identity and realizing that they're a part of a larger family, finding your identity and knowing that you are Israel, that you are Hebrew, one who has crossed over, as we have discussed before, and wanting to find others who have crossed over together. That's what it's all about.
Well, that's a subject we can explore at length, and we will. But in our closing minutes with you, let's talk about your new position. What is
Right.
a community development director?
Well, that came out of the fact that we had these positions, and we had the this vision of a family, and there was a lack of somebody being able to facilitate networking and bringing together projects, and not just projects, but events and procedures. And I was doing some of it, as well as the executive secretary, as well as several others. And I thought, we just need somebody that has a vision for family. And I just put it out there. And then I realized that I have a vision for family and that I've been working towards that. And other people recognize that too and nominated me for that. And so the community development director is all about putting legs to that vision. I think that's the most simple way I can put it.
Do you have ideas how to put those legs to the vision?
Yeah, I do. I have lots of ideas. One of the ideas that we are already talking about is doing regional gatherings so that we can get people together more easily than a national summit, which we still will do, but we want for people to find out who they are in their region so that they can gather together, so that they can meet together, and so that they can refer to one another. So that's one big thing there. Another thing that I would like to see is just networking so that we can help one another out, kind of a needy and poor, poor and needy, and yeah, that's what we'll call it. So that whenever people need help, a natural disaster or unemployment or something, we can make a call out, and our community can help one another out. Not only by resources, financial, but by showing up, by lending a hand, by referring other people, by being a family and taking care of one another. So those are 2 of the 20 ideas that I have.
Well, right now, BINA is a very small organization, and these are very big ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's not going to happen overnight.
No, if it does, that I'd be overwhelmed.
So we start with baby steps. And what are the baby steps you're thinking?
Well, since this is a brand spanking new position, started last Wednesday, baby steps are talking with the other directors and seeing what's possible.
Communication is always the first step.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I'm sure people will want to know, where's BINA going in the future? And you have laid out some of those ideas, but what do you see in a year or even 5 years? What do you see as your position having helped to facilitate, and where BINA might be?
I see my position helping to facilitate a deeper sense of community. I think one of the biggest refrains that we hear over and over again is, I thought I was all alone. I thought I was all by myself. And I want people who are searching to be able to easily find us, to find other Hebrews. So I feel like that's something that can be done in the next year to 5 years through different venues.
Just stitching people together and connecting them.
Yes.
There might be the question, how is BINA unique in this? Aren't there other organizations out there trying to connect the Hebrews across the land?
Yes, I think BINA is unique in that we would like to, if I'm going to go to a science reference, you need a catalyst. And a catalyst often helps the reaction, but it's not part of the reaction. And so being maybe connecting several of these groups and individuals together, we're not trying to replace, we're trying to facilitate.
Well, Akpene, we are coming to the end of our time with you. Is there anything you would like to leave with our listeners?
I think I touched on it before, is that the Father does lead us in our own journey, and our journeys are going towards the same place, but they may not be on the same path. And so if the Lord is leading you to stay where you are, to be a witness, then that's what you're supposed to do. If the Lord is leading you to separate yourself, then that is what you're supposed to do. To not let what other people do dictate where you're supposed to go. And I guess the other thing is to give grace, because grace has been given to us.
Well, those are good thoughts. Akpene Torku, Community Development Director, B'nai Yosef North America, thank you very much for sharing a little bit of your story with us.
My pleasure.
Will Spires has just released a new single called Home. He describes it as a love song for Jerusalem, our shining city on a hill. Home is available on cdbaby.com.
Like a gong and awakens my past to the sound of the steps of the traveling pilgrims who made Aliyah and are now beckoning to us. We wanna go home. Your rocks cry out, dust of my fathers. I hear the groans and it's pulling me towards up to the hill where your son saw the altar, where I belong. Your shalom flows like water. I wanna go home. Yerushalayim, my shining city on a hill. Yerushalayim, we're longing for you. Yerushalayim, we know where we belong. Yerushalayim, we're coming back home. We sing your song and we turn to the east. We see Jerusalem carved out under your sheen. As your word goes forth from the old city gates, we hear and obey. Your rocks cry out, dust of my fathers. I hear the groans and it's pulling me towards up to the hill where your son saw the altar, where I belong. Your shalom flows like water. Yerushalayim, my shining city on a hill. Yerushalayim, we're longing for you. Yerushalayim, we know where we belong. Yerushalayim, we're coming back home. Yerushalayim, my shining city on a hill. Yerushalayim, we're longing for you. Yerushalayim, we know where we belong. Yerushalayim, we're coming back home. Yerushalayim, whoa, oh, Yerushalayim, whoa, oh.
Hello and welcome to the Midrash portion of today's Reunion Roadmap. This is Barry Phillips along with Ed Boring. Ed is in Fresno, California. I'm on the East Coast in Gloucester, Virginia. We're both elders with B'nai Yosef of North America. And I know Ed's heart. He and his wife Wendy both are passionate about not only their relationship with Yah, but their worship of him. And Ed in particular has been much involved in worship in the past, in previous congregations. Ed, we talked about the subject of worship last week, and as we got ready to get into that particular midrash, we realized we could go on for a while with this. So first of all, welcome to the Reunion Roadmap today. Thank you for helping out and being a part of this midrash.
Thank you. It's a blessing to be here.
And I'd like just to go right into our first question and first thought here. When it comes to worship, we often see, if you watch YouTube, you see the more popular worship bands and so forth, and oftentimes it's a large arena or it's a large audience, light show. High quality sound system, full band, perfection of performance. Not everybody has that opportunity.
Right.
When it comes to worship, which way should the pendulum swing, if it should swing at all, between presentation and performance? And I know with performance we give it a negative connotation. We're not saying being and when we say performance, we're not talking about being someone who has no relationship and they're just going through the motions. We're talking about someone who has a relationship with Messiah, is wanting to worship him. Is it more about the presentation of things or the performance of things?
Well, I think if I understand what you mean by presentation, I think that my feeling or my understanding is that presentation is the side we want to come down on or go up on, make aliyah on. So it's because performance, although we do want to be excellent in how we present ourselves to Yahweh, it's the fact that we are presenting ourselves to him. Like, regardless of which instruments, if any instruments are being used other than our own voices and our own hands and feet, it's just being in his presence. And so I think that performance, I think that sometimes the production of things can facilitate, if you want to use that word, the experience that we have. And I think that, but I do also think that we can kind of get a little bit carried away with that. That I think the pageantry and the all of the things that we can do these days with pyrotechnics and smoke machines and lights and loops and whatever, it's pretty amazing what we can do, and we can create some great environment and some great moments that way. But I do think that what's most important is, where is your heart? Is your heart focused on, I got to make sure I get that chord progression right, or I got to make sure that that the guy in the mixing booth turns up this microphone at the right time, or all of those production elements can distract you from what you're really there to do, I think is the point I'm trying to make.
So the presentation of our heart, being genuine, being sincere, trumps performance.
I think so.
But it doesn't say that excellence shouldn't be pursued.
That is correct. In fact, it says specifically that excellence should be pursued, I think in Psalm 133, somewhere.
Well, you mentioned getting the chord progression right. So there's someone playing guitar and they flub a note, or it's a chord form that they're being asked to play, and then it's like, my fingers don't do that.
Right.
There are those, and I strive, and I was like, this is crazy. Just because I can't play that particular form, my fingers are not long enough to get that, or it's awkward for me to hit a particular note, doesn't mean that I can't do the song. I may have to back up and recreate the way that I do that song.
Yes.
But if my heart is sincere in presenting that to him, it's acceptable to him.
Yes, I believe that. And it's interesting, the dynamic, I think, between, quote, doing the best you can and striving for excellence in what we present. Because, of course, you can't do better than the best you can, right? But at the same time, you want to strive for even beyond that. You want it to be the best possible offering you can bring, even if it's beyond what you think you're even capable of. So
I'm reminded as you're saying that, years and years ago, and I mean decades and decades ago, multiple decades ago, the old Church of God days of someone being called to sing a psalm. Someone was requested, ask so-and-so to sing. Well, I haven't practiced. Y'all pray for me while I try to do the best that I can. And they make this meager attempt to sing a song that they're obviously not prepared to sing. Well, that fills the gap. And I guess you say, well, bless their heart, they tried.
Bless their heart.
That's on one extreme. On the other extreme is a super talented musician or vocalist with a full orchestra or full band and all of the technical opportunities of lights and sound and so forth. But again, it comes down to the presentation of the heart. That doesn't mean that the person who's wanting to lead worship in a small living room group doesn't need to tune their guitar or sing on key if they can.
Right.
Sometimes, we just don't have the ear for music. We don't sing well, but we're going to sing and we're going to worship. So I guess what I'm going at, for those that are limited in their opportunity or their ability, it doesn't mean that you can't worship. Offer to him the best skill that you can develop, I think is where I would go with that. Is that agreeable?
Yeah, it is agreeable. What's coming to my mind right now, however, is the question of, how important or how mandatory is it that we have music happening in order for there to be worship? And
that's good.
I know that I like to have music going. I mean, I maybe it's just what I'm used to or that kind of thing, but certainly I feel like the best moments of worship that I've ever experienced involved music in some way. Mm-hmm. But I'm also thinking about, one of our primary biblical examples of true worship is Isaiah 6. And there's no mention of any instruments that Yeshayahu took in there with him. He just saw the Lord, and he was high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. And he fell down and said, I can't be here. I'm not clean. That was worship.
So just two quick follow-up questions on that one point. Any style okay?
I don't know why not. I mean, I think that almost any style can be sort of corrupted or made too unholy, so to speak. But as far as I can tell, pretty much any style can be used to glorify the name of Yahweh.
The other question is, who is worship primarily for? I mean, does Yah actually need our worship, or is it about you and I having this meaningful encounter that benefits us? Who's the beneficiary primarily of worship?
Wow. That's a loaded question, man, because we know Yahweh is sovereign, and he doesn't need anything. He doesn't need us for anything. I guess but because he's just Almighty God, he doesn't need us. But he, in his way, I believe that he is the primary target of worship. He's who we're worshiping. We're not worshiping ourselves. But I believe that, of course, as we do that, as we surrender and as we lay ourselves down in his presence, then he overshadows us with his chesed, his mercy and his grace and his love. So, and healing and all those things. I mean, he comes and overwhelms us and overpowers us and embraces us and sings over us. So it's, in the end, we are beneficiaries of our own worship to him, because when he receives it, then he pours out his Holy Spirit on us. And I don't think we want to come into worship with the notion of, okay, I'm going to do this so that I can receive the blessing and the healing from Yahweh. But, because we really need to truly just be not expecting anything in return, just coming and giving ourselves to him completely.
Okay. So let's follow that up with one other aspect here. I'm reminded of Moshe having this burning bush experience. And he's told that the place that he has now encountered is set apart.
Right.
Take off your shoes because you have stepped into this realm. That's always been my goal, is to worship him, adore him, magnify him until, my ultimate goal, I want to see the room filled with his smoke.
Amen.
I mean, I want one of those moments where you're, as you were describing the prophet Yeshayahu, falling apart at the seams, trembling, coming undone before him. As painful as spiritually that may be, it's yet the goal and the desire that we have. Should that be always our goal? Or sometimes, Father, I'm just going to sing this song to you because I love you. If we strive for the uber encounter, are we putting undue pressure on ourselves?
Well, yeah, I think the answer ultimately is yes, in a sense. I mean, it's funny to put that in that context, that we're putting too much pressure on ourselves, because I think that's really what Yahweh doesn't want. He wants freedom. He wants our freedom, us to be free, and so he wants us to be relaxed in a sense and be able to just come to him, as his children, to really worship him with all of our hearts and souls and minds. And so, if we're putting these expectations on ourselves when we come in, first of all, what if that doesn't happen? What if that Uber experience doesn't happen? Because a lot of times it does not. We then look at what we just did as not being worthy. Do we look and say that wasn't apparently a good enough offering? So I need to change it up for next time so that I can get it right. I don't think that's what he wants us to do. I think he wants us to offer him what we have and receive from him. So.
Okay, for the next 40 seconds or so, how would you encourage someone in their living room, the small group of 10 or less, and they're trying to facilitate worship? What would you encourage them with?
Don't be afraid of silence. I would encourage them with maybe possibly this counters what I just said, but reading Psalms out loud or reciting them from memory or other scripture that kind of wait on the Lord to speak to you about what to pray, what to speak, what kind of word to share, a song to sing, and then just let it happen. Don't be afraid to speak it out. A lot of times we're waiting on somebody to be the leader. I think that we need to let the Holy Spirit be the leader.
Awesome words. Well, folks, that's all that we can do in this time allotment here. Much more could be said. If you'd like to say something more to us, you can reach us at reunionroadmap at B'naiYosefNA.com. Until next week, for Ed Boren and Barry Phillips, shalom.
Shalom.
Our next musical selection is Where You Go by Jimmy Black from his album No Other Name, available at jimmyblack.com.
Where you go, I will follow you. Where you go, I will follow you. Teach me your ways, and I will follow you forever. And teach me your ways, and I will follow you forever. Where you go, I will follow you. Where you go, I will follow you. Teach me your ways, and I will follow you forever. Teach me your ways, and I will follow you forever. And I am to you, I give my life to you, and I am yours. You can have it all, you can have it all, and I am yours. I give my life to you. I give my life to you, and I am yours. You can have it all. You can have it all. my will. You can have it all. My life is yours.
We hope you enjoyed that song by Jimmy Black, Where You Go. That is a song about identity, as we were talking at the top of the show. And it's a great song of devotion to our Messiah, to our God. You know, what it reminds me of is a story from 2 Samuel chapter 19. It's the story of King David when he's returning to Jerusalem after having been exiled by his son Absalom, when Absalom rebelled. Well, there is the story that the grandson of Saul, Mephibosheth, came to see King David, and Mephibosheth's servant, Ziba, had slandered him during the process and had put him in a bad light. And the scripture says this. It says in 2 Samuel 19, "So the king said to him, 'Why do you still speak of your affairs? I have decided you and Ziba shall divide the land.' But Mephibosheth said to the king, 'Let him even take it all, since my lord the king has come safely to his own house.'" You know what that tells me, Tefania? Mephibosheth, the grandson of Saul, was so devoted to King David, he realized that if the king was there, if he had the king and the nation had the king, what more did they need? And that is what Jimmy Black was singing in his song. If we have our Messiah, what else do we need? Let him take everything else. Let's just have him.
That's quite an interesting thought. In fact, I had been pondering something dealing with Messiah, actually, which has to do with what I'm going to be speaking about in regard to identity. And when Yaakov had his dream and he was looking at the ladder and he saw the angels ascending and descending upon it, what if that ladder he was looking at was a double helix? And if you look at the DNA molecule, it is consisting of 22 amino acids. These 22 amino acids correspond perfectly with the 22 letters of the alphabet. We got the Aleph all the way to the Tav. And so was he looking at Messiah, that Messiah was everything and he was all in all? Messiah was the one and the complete embodiment of Israel, who he would later become known as Israel. And he was seeing that this is the connection between earth to heaven and heaven to earth. And our identity is found in Messiah that way.
Well, that it is. That's why we are able to embrace our Hebraic identity as well.
Yes.
Well, Tefania, we are at the end of our time once again. Thank you all for listening once more to Reunion Roadmap. We do hope you have a blessed week, and join us again next time for another edition of Reunion Roadmap, a production of B'nai Yosef North America.
Thank you for joining us on Reunion Roadmap, a production of B'nai Yosef North America. Please come back next week for another visit with the people of the emerging house of Joseph here in North America.